Hey, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a class of drugs that, wow, they started out treating diabetes but have somehow ended up completely reshaping our culture. We're talking about GLP-1 agonists. You've probably heard of them as Ozempic or Wegovy. And they're doing way more than just changing waistlines. They are fundamentally changing the definition of beauty itself.
So let me just ask you this. What if the perfect body wasn't about diet or the gym or even your genetics anymore, but was something you could just pick up at the pharmacy?
Well, here's the thing. That's not some far-off hypothetical future. That is exactly where we are right now. The age of getting your beauty from a prescription is officially here. And honestly, it's changing everything faster than anyone could have imagined. And this massive shift, well, it's got a name: the pharmacological pivot. It's basically the end of one era of beauty and the really dramatic start of a totally new one that's being driven by a new ideal. Our source material calls the synthetic aesthetic.
You know, for the last 10 years or so, the whole conversation was about body positivity, right? It was all about celebrating different kinds of curves, diversity. The whole BBL look was at its absolute peak. But then, almost overnight, a new standard just swooped in and took its place. The new goal isn't about building curves anymore. It's about achieving a very specific type of thinness, and one that's not achieved through lifestyle, but through a weekly injection.
So, what does this new era actually look like? I mean, this new kind of thin has a very specific appearance, and it's creating these distinct physical changes that are becoming the new standard. And, of course, a whole new list of things for people to feel insecure about. I'm sure you've heard this term being thrown around: Ozempic face. And it's not just a clever name. It describes something very real that's happening. See, when you lose a lot of weight this fast, you don't just lose it from your body. You lose it from these crucial fat pads in your face that keep you looking young and full.
And let's break that down. The loss of volume creates hollows at your temples, which can make the top half of your face look kind of skeletal. Your cheeks deflate and start to sag. That's a process called puasis, and that makes smile lines deeper and creates jowls. And when you lose the fat from around your eyes, you can end up looking really sunken and tired. It's this strange paradox. Your body gets thinner, but your face might end up looking years older.
And this isn't just about the face either, because the drug crushes your appetite so effectively. If you're not doing some serious resistance training, you can lose a ton of muscle mass. We're talking up to 40% of the total weight you lose. And this creates a whole new pharmaceutical ideal. It's a look that values a fragile, almost linear body over that strong, toned physique you build in the gym. It's the rise of what some people are calling the skinny fat body. But, you know, the really wild part? The changes are not just skin deep. To really get what's happening with this new beauty standard, you have to look at the huge psychological shifts happening inside a user's mind. I mean, what does it actually feel like to live in a brain that has no appetite?
This right here is the absolute core of it. For so long, we saw thinness as a sign of willpower, right? Resisting the urge to eat. But these drugs, they don't ask you to resist the urge. They just erase it. People who use them talk about the food noise going silent, that constant chatter in your head about what to eat, when to eat. The new ideal isn't about having a strong character anymore. It's about having a chemically quieted brain.
But quieting the brain like that can have a serious downside. The same pathways in your brain that get dampened for food can also reduce the pleasure you get from, well, everything else. And this has led to this new stereotype bubbling up: the Ozempic personality. It's this idea of someone who is physically perfect, but they're emotionally flat, experiencing something called anhedonia, where all the simple joys of life just feel muted.
Now, these physical and mental shifts aren't just happening in a bubble. So let's pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture, because this whole pivot is causing a huge cultural backlash against all the progress that the body positivity movement made.
The numbers coming out of the fashion industry, I mean, they are just staggering. Take a look at this. At the very peak of body positivity in fall 2022, plus-size models were still only 2.4% of models on the runway. By spring 2025, that number is expected to crash to less than 1%. The industry is going backwards, fast. They're designing for and celebrating one body type again, the Ozempic body.
And this isn't just a high fashion thing. People are really feeling this shift in their everyday lives. A recent survey showed that a huge majority, 64% of Americans, feel like all the celebrity hype around these drugs has been bad for body positivity. It basically sends the message that the answer to weight stigma isn't to fix the stigma, it's to get rid of the weight.
This all feeds into something our source calls the almond mom vindication.
Remember that whole toxic almond mom diet culture that got mocked online? Well, now that thin at all costs mindset feels totally justified. It's now armed with a prescription pad, and it reinforces this really dangerous idea that a kid's natural, growing body isn't okay. It's a problem that needs to be fixed with an injection.
And that brings us to maybe the biggest piece of this whole puzzle, the money. Because this new beauty standard, it's not just a look, it's a luxury good. It's creating a whole new class divide based on who can afford to get thin and, even more importantly, who can afford to stay thin.
First off, just look at the price of admission. For the brand name stuff, you're looking at over $1,000 a month if your insurance doesn't cover it. Right away, that makes this particular type of body a very clear, very expensive status symbol.
And here's the real catch. This is not a one-and-done fix. Not even close. It's a maintenance trap. The studies are incredibly clear on this. When you stop taking the drug, your appetite comes roaring back, sometimes worse than before, and the weight comes back with it. This creates a cycle where you're basically dependent on the drug for life. It's a subscription to thinness.
The way the source material puts it is just perfect. It says, the body is transformed into a rental property. The beauty standard is leased, not owned. You have to keep making those monthly payments if you want to keep your lease on the current ideal. You can see this whole story reflected perfectly in what's happening in plastic surgery. The demand for BBLs is tanking. What's surging instead? Procedures to fix the side effects of the drug. We're talking face and neck lifts to correct Ozempic face, body lifts to get rid of all the loose skin, and tons of fillers to put volume back into the places the drug hollowed out. So the synthetic aesthetic is here. It's thinner, it's more linear, and it's maintained by a prescription. But as we all rush to embrace this new standard, it leaves us with one last, kind of haunting question to think about. What is the real, long-term cost of a quieted brain?